Mr. Julius Kohler of Boise City. We're taking an interview with you, a taped interview, for the Living Legend Library, which is a library of taped interviews with pioneers who have had broad experiences on the high plains of Oklahoma. This library is located at the Oklahoma Christian College at Memorial and Eastern Avenue, south of Edmond and north of Oklahoma City, and is available for replay to anyone who is interested in your life. Mr. Kohler, I have present here also Clyde Herbstreit, who might ask a question. Clyde's an old-timer up here and a close friend of yours. So we will start out with this question. I believe you were an immigrant boy, is that?
Yeah, that's it. That's true.
You were born where?
No, I wasn't born here.
Where?
I was born in Osterburgen,
Germany.
Germany, on the 16th day of June, 1879. At
Right.
the 16th of June, 1879.
And then you were celebrated your 88th birthday, or observed it. I know you didn't celebrate it this week.
Well, yes, my 88th year.
Yeah.
You got to wait a little, you know. I got to think a little before I answer.
Well, when you want to take time, I will cut this off on pause. Now, you came to this country as an immigrant boy alone, I understand.
All by myself.
And where did you land in the United States?
At Meade Center, Kansas.
Meade Center, Kansas.
That's east of Louisville, about 40 miles.
And you didn't stay there very long, did you?
Well, I stayed there one winter, the first winter, with my uncle. His name was Ignatius Frank Rohr. You could...
And then you went to...
No, and he got me a job next spring down at the Crooked Creek. That's about 15 miles south of Meade Center. And the man I worked for till fall was Henry Brinkman. There's a record of all that stuff, you see, and that can be checked because I'm clear on that.
Now,
And I worked all summer.
not quite so loud, please.
Oh,
Twice.
all right, and I worked all summer for 12 and a half a month.
12 and a half a month.
Yes, sir.
Did they feed you
And my
well?
board.
Did they feed you well?
Well, I got plenty to eat, you know. Yeah.
Sometimes slept in the barn,
Oh, well, no. We stayed upstairs. There's another boy there. He come from Pratt, Kansas. He worked with me.
Yes. And what were your duties? What type of work did you perform?
General farm work and haying, you know. He had
General farm
quite a
work
bit of
and-
alfalfa there, yeah.
Then I believe you went down to Beaver after
No,
staying-
I went from then, that fall, I went and got acquainted with Doc Enshoots. He's another old man. And I stayed there 2 months
at his place.
at his place.
Where is that located?
Picked up cow chips for winter surf. Yes,
Where is his place located?
it's right on the Cimarron, southeast of the Brinkman place, across in Oklahoma.
This was no man's land.
No man's land then.
And it was later designated as Beaver County, I believe.
In 1907.
And then it's my understanding that you traveled the high plains, particularly no man's land,
Mm-hmm.
in doing the repair of windmills for ranchers. Is that correct?
I didn't catch that.
That you traveled the high plains,
Mm-hmm.
no man's land, doing repair work for keeping windmills in order.
I stayed there 2 months, got a supply of chips in for winter that they used to burn. That's all I had.
Yes.
And then I went up to Exile Ranch and helped feed the cattle and stayed till about first part of March,
That'll be 98.
98. All right. And stayed, I now put my horse in Lambie's barn. There's a record of that at Liberal. And he could talk German language. And anyhow, one morning, I think the next morning, we walked up the main street of Liberal. There was nothing but board sidewalks. And part of them you had to gullet some. They were broke out. There was no street or anything, paved or anything. And while we were walking, we met a gentleman and his wife. His name was Tom Shoemaker. So I got off at a little narrow sidewalk, not in the edge of the road, and he talked with him. Of course, I couldn't understand all of it. And his wife said, "Why, young man, come here, I want to talk to you." And I will forget that. Now we now talk to her, and she asked me some questions, you know, and all that. And finally, the old man called me on the porch. He said, "Come here." He says, "Mr. Lemmy told me you're looking for a job." I says, "Yes, sir." "You want to know what I can do?" I said, "Oh, I can try most anything. I'm willing to work. I'm all by myself." Well, we talked a little. I don't remember all of it, but he says, "Have you got a bed?" I said, "Yeah, it's at Meat Center." He reached in his pocket and offered me some money. He says, "You get on a train in the morning and come back on the evening train and bring your bed and turn it over to Lambie. Turn it over to Lambie, the delivery man, and my freight wagon comes in about every 8 days. And he'll see it's put on the freight wagon. You get in the morning, after you get your bed here, you start out, you can stay all night at Buffalo. That's old Henderson. And the second day you come to the ranch and we'll find something for you." For about 6 weeks I had to stay around the house, milk a couple of cows, and every morning I had to grease his buggy with castor oil, shoemaker's buggy, and carry off the team and hitch him up to the buggy. And when he get ready with his office work, he on time and he'd drive over the range, you know. The ranch soon found out the north line of the ranch was on the Kansas line north. And the south fence was again Charlie Hitch's fence on the south. And he'd be gone all day. Sometime he'd come in late. And sometime he'd wake me up and sometime he didn't. I had to take care of the team, you know. I stayed in what they called the doghouse where the boys stayed. And so he come in one night, we all had supper together in the basement of the old ranch house. And I didn't understand all of it, but Mr. Shoemaker and his wife got in an argument. And I found out, you know, through the conversation that he's going to take me away out on the windmill wagon. And I stayed there, you know, by God till I moved up here.
Well, now you did travel around and service windmills, did you?
Oh, I 47 windmills to look after.
47.
And do also all the blacksmith work on the said ranch.
Was it
when that work didn't interfere with the windmill work? Water first, Shoemaker always said, we can't stay here without water for the cattle.
Did you travel by horseback usually?
No, I had a heavy spring wagon. When I had to pull those wells, all 4-inch outfit and 16 and 18-foot U.S. wooden wheels, direct stroke. And I went blank. He had a man on the windmill wagon. The big wagon, there was a span of mules with it, a jumbo and chili, and I will forget them. They were awful good pullers, and they was trained for that. And then I had a light spring wagon in later years. Whenever the boys had a horse that they couldn't handle, that is, it just pitch every time men get on him, I told John H. Lott, who was manager then, manager of the ranch, And I told him I'll drive the tail off of them, you know. I says, I'll take them. I get 'em, and I go in that spring wagon. Some days I drove 60 and 70 miles.
Well, that would require more than one day's travel then.
Oh, well, hell, a lot of time, I'll tell you. Shoemaker told me, he says, now that's old folkish stuff, but it's true.
No. Well, sometime you were out then away from the ranch house for several days at a
Oh,
time.
I had a headquarter camp, and I built it at nights.
By yourself?
By myself.
Now,
One night, that's very particular, I done it with a team. It's just in the side of the hill I used to slip. Take the pick and loosen the ground. I had no plow, you know, or nothing. And then driving down the steep slope, you know, and finally I got enough so I stoop a little, and I work at nights, you know, with the lantern hanging there. And I backed one mule in, just by speaking, back up. They walked back, and I pulled the slip back in the hole, pick and shovel, and fill the slip and pull it out, dumped it.
Now,
And one night I was working, I never will forget it. And I was busy picking there on the corner, and I heard a rattle. And by God, the mule was gone. Pulled out with that trap, and I listened. I hear once in a while, you know, that damn slip, you know, and it bounds a little, you know, and rattle. Why, and there was no use for me to go down there, and I knew a mule wouldn't hurt himself. Next morning, got up early and went down there, and I found me all tangled up in that chain harness. By God, he couldn't get up. Yes, sir.
Well, now, let me ask you this. From the time you arrived in the United States and in this part of the country, was it your ambition to become a landowner in your own right?
Well, yes. I always wanted the homestead.
And what year did you establish this homestead where we're sitting?
When everything was okay with the water, with the windmills. I drive up here with a windmill wagon, you know, the spring wagon, and I go up and down this river, and I located this place.
How many acres the homestead was it?
160 acres.
160 acres.
That is, it was custom then. The channel talk was that Uncle Sam give you 160 acres of land and bet you again your 16 silver dollars. That's what I paid Dick Quinn when I filed on it. That you couldn't stay on 5 years without starving to death.
Yeah, you had to do something else.
Yeah, you had
to supplement it.
But my experience in windmills, you know, and I can do carpenter work and steel and iron, I can handle it.
Yes. Well, now, that expanded, we might as well bring that in now to approximately how many thousand acres in your ranch holdings over the period of years?
There's about between 12 and 15 sections.
12 and 15 sections.
There's
That'd be roughly 10,000 acres.
Yeah. There's, all right, and there's, I acquired finally between 3,000 and 4,000 acres of deeded land, which is on this ranch now.
Yes. The rest is state land.
The rest is state land. And I want to put that in.
And you are astride the Cimarron River. You're on both sides.
On both sides, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now,
I own every foot of land that's on the inside of the outside fences without anyone's got any interest in it.
That's good.
Any of them. You know that.
Now, what year did you actually homestead here?
I filed I think in the spring of 2 or 3. I don't know which.
1902 or 1903.
That's right.
Well, you didn't have a very thickly settled population in this area then, did you?
No, there's just ranches up and down this Cimarron. Well, I got acquainted with all of them after I moved here. But it was just a hog heaven.
Well, my understanding is that due to your windmill experience, you also acquired some knowledge of engineering.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had that in Europe.
You had that in Europe?
When I went to mechanic school. We learned all about drawings, you know, and there's a key to building homes and different things, you know.
Well, I know that you're known as the man who dammed up the Cimarron.
Yeah, I did.
What year was that you built your earthen dam?
My earthen dam, there never was an earthen dam built.
Wasn't there?
No. There was a fellow started it. He come down from Washington, Oregon. And, but he didn't get anywhere with it. So he sold me an interest in it for $3,000. I bought 1/4 interest of the water right, and the right of way. I went and got all the right of ways through those places, that the ditch runs through it now, and seen it is put on record. I seen right away after I got into it, he was no businessman. He done everything ham-scam, But I kind of took it over, and finally he went flat broke, and I just bought him out.
Yeah, you owned the dam then.
Oh, I owned the land on it and everything, yeah.
Now, you did get voiced out one time, did you not?
Well, he had a dam kind of built, but I used to tell him, I says, Ted was his name, Ted. I said, let's take some cement and cap it over so the water will never get a hold. All he done laid the cement in rock, big rock. He put rocks there in that dam that weighed 2 tons.
How did he move these 2-ton rocks?
All right, he had a little track from the rock where anybody can see it. I can show it to him. And it's all downhill, and he'd work sometime one day to get one rock on that dam. He got this 4 iron wheels like a section car, I don't know what, I don't remember what it was.
On the railway.
And he had tracks made out of 2x4s all the way down. And he hauled them big rocks. He had a brake on. He'd get on it, and he'd keep the speed up, down. And of course, it went out. It went out in 14.
In 14?
Yeah, I cleaned it up.
And you rebuilt it?
I just moved it down the river a little bit, or up the river a little bit, and I built it out now.
How many acres will this, roughly, not exactly, will this dam and the water supply, yes?
Well, if it's all, there's quite a bit of land here that never had a plow stuck in. The lay's perfect.
Yes.
But I always told the boys, I says, never plow up a piece of ground unless you can operate it efficiently. I says, the grass is worth more than trying to do half-cock farming on it. All right? And there is approximately 2,000 acres can be irrigated.
Well, now, you've had several lawsuits from downtown.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you what the cause of it was this. It seems like there was some awful good men, old-timers here, but when it come right down to a question, they didn't want it done.
Uh-huh. But you, I understand, appeared in court as your own attorney on many occasions.
Oh, yes. I pled my own case. I'll tell you what made me do it. I found out you turn over a piece of paper or a contract, a right-of-way contract through some fellow's homestead, they'd lose it. And I would never, after I lost several of them, and had to get certified copies, or it probably wasn't recorded,
That's right.
Anytime I'd done anything, like a contract or bought a piece of land, and I'll tell you how I bought the land. A fellow get disgusted and thought he was, the grass would grow greener over the hill, or someplace else. And I found out, or he come to me, he says, I'm going to get out of here. It's hard to get by and make a living. And I says, well, I'll tell you. By that time, I had established a credit in the First National Bank of Trinidad. I've been only up there one time. After...
What town was this?
Trinidad, Colorado.
Trinidad, Colorado.
The president was John C. Huddleston. And so I told him, I says, well, I ain't got no money. But I'll tell you what I do. We argued a good deal about me buying, and he wanted to sell it. And I bought this land reasonably cheap.
Well, roughly, what would be the average?
The average, I think, would average about from $15 to $20. I bought some for 10. I bought 1/4 up north here that isn't under the ditch for $700, 160. And then there's another piece, Garvey, fellow from Flint, Michigan, and he done his banking business at Fostoria, Michigan. So I bought this land, and there was a lady at Kenton used to live. She had something to do with it. She tried to, after we proofed it up, she filed a protest of this Garvey as was illegally proofed up. But I cleaned all that.
All doing your own legal work.
Oh, I'm doing my own, yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you.
let me inquire a little.
All right.
It's very interesting that you have dammed or helped dam or owned 2 dams across the Cimarron River, which of course is a very famous river.
Yeah.
And you use that now to irrigate some 2,000 acres of land.
We are not operating that much now. There's about 1,300 acres we are using.
When did you bring your bride here?
When we bring what?
Your bride. When did you get married and move here?
Oh, I moved here in the fall of 1903. I never moved.
1903.
Strong and no family.
And what has it consisted of? I believe you have 4 sons, do you not?
I had 4 sons and 5 daughters.
4 sons and 5 daughters, and one of your
My
daughters,
youngest, yeah.
one of your daughters met tragedy.
Yeah, with her 3 children.
Mm-hmm. You have their children.
No, killed all 3 children and her.
Oh, I recall that.
That's straight.
Yes. And you've seen the transition of times. You've seen your farms modernized, have you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen all of them.
And now you have, what do you use for fuel here?
Well, it's butane.
Butane.
Yeah.
And you have rural electricity, REA.
Oh, yeah.
And
we quit putting cow chips. We got getting butane.
well, cow chips was a common fuel out here.
That was all the fuel there was.
Buffalo chips, too.
Buffalo. Well, I know. There was no buffalo chips left, because a good chip hooker would never pick up a white chip.
Yeah.
because the grease was out of it. Well, that's true.
Certainly. Well, now...
now, I'll tell you just one thing. I'll tell you what got me to thinking about the dam before anybody done anything. I've heard of little dams, up and down the river, but they had more or less trouble. They built them out of cottonwood logs and rock and dirt and all that, but very little cement. And I remember well when I used to see the river come up. See, I was close to the river, and everything was burned up. And I just thought, what schooling I had in Europe, they do a lot of irrigation there, Why, that can be utilized, that water runoff, And the more I studied into it, the more I saw this project feasible. And I always been that way. I really don't like no partnership business of any kind. The old lady's enough.
I wouldn't want her to hear that.
Well, she wouldn't care. She wouldn't care.
Well, now let me ask you, during the World War II, you had some nice labor, did you not? Japanese labor, Japanese American?
Yes, sir. I got in connection with a seed house at Rocky Ford. And this man and his wife used to come by here, go down in eastern Oklahoma where he had a little piece of land, and stay all night with us. And we get to talking about it, and he told me that there's a fortune can be made here if men had the water on this land here. He always told me about the difference in the Arkansas River land and the land in the Cimarron River, the dry Cimarron, they call it then. But I knew there's enough water coming down, and that got me to just step by step. The more I study about it, the more I got interested in it, and I finally took it over.
When did you build your last dam?
And my last dam is built in 33 and finished in 34. I had 22 men up there working, and I went up there one time with my help I had here, and there was no one on the job. And so they stayed about a half a mile west of the dam in an old C.H. Run's house. There was no one living there. So I went up there and I found out that most of them are still in bed. I made a contract with one man. I didn't have nothing to do with his man. I paid him so much a yard for building the dam, you see. All right. And when I found out when I started the dam, I got to come back a little. I got the whole bunch there. There was a little power mixer, and I had a storage tank set up on the levee, and had the water pressure. There was two boys done nothing else but washed all the rocks out before they went into cement. I had a man there on the west end and a man on the east end laying the line wall, and the rest of it was filled with cement and rock. And every rock was clean and wet.
Well, let me ask you this question about your Japanese labor. There was some opposition in Boise City to your importing these.
Sure.
And they went to court, did they not?
Huh?
They went to court?
Well, no, they didn't quite go to court. I remember, I can't think of the sheriff. They went down there. There's a bunch of fellows, you know, that got together, and they didn't like the chaps coming into this country. All right?
Well, they were Japanese American, however.
Oh, they were. Sure. If there wasn't, there was some of them here, the best man, the leader of the Japanese, his name is Harry Vichita. Well, he kind of controlled the whole setup, you know. And he was naturalized. He was born in Japan. But they arrived in Boise City unexpected. One day there, and they all had the identification picture on the breast, the men and the women and the children. And they was gonna.
How many were there, Mr. Kohler?
Well, it was about, I think, 10 or 12 families.
And they took the place of farm labor that you couldn't get.
Well, I just turned over 160 acres in one lot, in one patch, and then a little additional good land, easy. It didn't take no leveling. And they were the nicest people and the most honest people. I just small them below.
Did you receive any threats concerning them?
Oh, yes. They was going to kill me and all the chaps here.
I understand that they formed a little clique.
Yeah, a little clique. Had meetings at night.
Yeah?
The women folks with the clubs had the meeting at night and said they're going to poison all the well water here.
And
I told them to come on, we're waiting for you with Winchesters.
You brought the FBI in too, did you not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the FBI was on your side.
The hell, I had a permit from the government to bring them in here.
Yeah. Well, this is
But I didn't talk about that stuff, you know, always around the surprise. Anyhow, when they got through with the story,
to Governor Phillips.
to Governor Phillips, he told them, boys, keep your shirt on. He says, if the federal government okayed their movement here, why, he says, if you start anything, Uncle Sam will have the soldiers in here. I've got...
Well, Mr. Kohler, this has been a most interesting interview. I wish we had more tape here on this run.